So the way Murph has Steinsaltz reads it even better, which says basically that this what we're about to bring, which talks about the psukim that show shiduchim, is a support to the story of Rav speaking to this fellow who is davening. You'll see that therefore women and men have been set by the Almighty who's going to marry who. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So we'll read it that way. Hachi Amar Rav Mishum Rav Ruben Bar Bavli. Min Torah u'min Advim u'min Aksuvim me'Hashem Isha li'ish. That there's psukim in the Torah, there's psukim in the Advim and in the Ksuvim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu plays a role in deciding, in having decided which woman is going to marry which man, who is assigned, so to speak, from birth, from before birth. T'chsev. And all of these cases are, of course, ramazim. They're not really proofs, but they are thematically make sense. So the first case is a story about Lavan and Besuel, where when Rivka, when the servant of Avram comes and he finds Rivka at the well, and the pasuk says, "Vayan Lavan u'Besuel vayomu me'Hashem yatsa davar." The word has come from Hashem. We can't tell you good or bad because obviously you've told us a story and it seems that there's a miracle going on. And Chazal see in this statement of Lavan and Besuel, it doesn't mean only that the whole story was Me'Hashem, which is what really the simple meaning is, but the fact that Rebecca was chosen to be the betrothed or the assigned to Yitzchak is from Hashem. The whole thing comes out from Hashem. So you see, therefore, that the idea of a tzaddik and a tzaddikes marrying is set from Hashem. That's one example. Second example is about Shimshon. Min hanavim t'chsev v'avi v'imo lo yado ki me'Hashem hi. So in discussing the story of Shimshon, this is where he's meeting Delilah, and Delilah gets a hold of him, that they did know that Hashem had set it up. And so really, if you want to read the story, simple pshat is they didn't realize that Hashem had plans here, but may Hashem that she is Hashem. In other words, once again, the story of Delilah. Now, by the way, the first case in the Torah is a case of a tzaddik and a tzaddikes. The second case is a case of a tzaddik and a Rashanta, okay, whatever we call her, okay. And in Ksuvim, and in the Ksuvim says as follows: Beis Hon Nachlas Avos. This from Mishlei. BAYT v'Hon Nachlas Avos. A house and riches are the inheritance of your fathers or parents. Ume Hashem Isha Maskeles. And Hashem is a wise woman. An intellectually smart woman is from Hashem. In other words, you can't inherit that. All right, and
isn't there a midrash somewhere that God is sitting all day? And there's right. That famous midrash, right?
The famous midrash is
making shidduchim all day.
Right.
But so why don't they quote that?
So I guess it's quoted somewhere else. The case where that is quoted is the case of Rabbi Meir. Case I believe Rabbi Meir and the daughter of Tunis Rufus. Tunis Rufus himself says, Tunis Rufus says to Tunis Rufus is this Roman general who lives during the post-Hadrianic persecutions. I don't know who to identify him with, but it comes up in a number of these stories. I believe it's Tunis Rufus. So and says, okay, you got a great God. I understand He created the world. What's He been doing since He made the world? Right. So Ramir says, well, He's making shidduchim. And he says, that's ridiculous. So he grabs 40 slaves, and 40 or 40, I don't remember, 40 or 400, and male and female, matches them up and says, I can do the same thing. I'm as great as your God. And of course, the next morning they come, they're all beaten up, and this one's got a black eye, this one's got bruises. Okay, so you see that it's not
so... quote that here.
That's correct, right?
They could have.
That's true, but I guess that's not as cogent as a halachic or pseudo halachic statement that Shmuel said, "B'chol yom v'yom bas kol yotzeis v'omeres bas ploni laploni." Right? That actually seems to be a statement. The story of Rabbi Meir is what's HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing? He's making shidduchim. How do you know it? Because you can't do better. This actually is a statement. The world of the voice comes out, and you just have to hear it. Okay. Okay, the Amar. So by in the third case, by the way, this is what the Eon Yaakov and others point out is the third part of the triangle, where it's talking about a wicked person and a Russia and a wise woman, or a tzedekes. So we have all three possibilities. We don't have wicked and wicked, but we have tzaddik and tzedekes. We have tzaddik and rishus, and we have Russia and a tzedekes, okay, or isha maskelas, which is positive. The Amar, and having brought this one example of Rav Reuven bar Astrubili, which we are now explaining to be the support for the previous story, the Gemara says, oh, we got another statement of Rav Mishum Rav Reuven bar Astrubili, which seems to really have very little to do here. It is related, by the way, to women, but in a negative kind of context. But it's a good medrash. You probably heard this medrash, maybe you heard the medrash when you learned Pashas Kisisa. And it says when Moshe moves the tent outside the camp, and everybody is looking at Moshe. Yibitu acharei Moshe ad boa ola. So Rashi says why they're looking at Moshe, because they got love. He looks really nice. He's got a nice fat neck. Or in other versions of the Medrash, they're saying, look, he's out there by himself, and all the women are going to him. Who knows what's going on? So they're not. When Moshe removes the tent from his tent, or the old Moed, from after the sin of the golden calf, it is viewed in Midrash. Well, the Torah says he does that, but it is viewed as a separation between him and the Jewish people, who they then look to make all kinds of aspersions and rumors and so forth. Okay. So, Amar Rav Reuven Mastrili, Ein Adam Nechsha B'Davar Elam Kain Aso. So if he makes the following statement, a person is not suspected of an act unless he did it. In other words, there's no smoke without fire. It's actually a very harsh statement, right? Okay, rumors circulating. Any rumor is true. Believe the rumors. And then the word quantifies it. V'im lo aso kulo aso mitzaso. If he didn't do it, all of it, there's some truth to the rumor, okay? V'im lo aso mitzaso. And if he didn't do it at all, he did none of it. Here, believe so. He at least thought to do it. He identified with it. V'im lo here believe so. If he didn't even think about doing it, rachem shasov samach. He saw others who were doing it, and he didn't reprove them. In fact, he was supportive of them. We're happy that they were doing so. So, in other words, there's always, when there's smoke, there's somewhere something going on there. Now that sounds like a very harsh statement. The Gemara actually takes it to task and doesn't want to accept it. Because rumors, as we all know, rumors are extremely destructive. Right? They pop up. And then, one's reputation can be sullied and destroyed.
And hard to get back.
And hard to return, correct. Hard to restore. So Masi Rabbi Yaakov. So Rabbi Yaakov asks the question, it says, Vaychapu b'nei Yisrael dvar masher lo kain al Hashem elokehem. So that the Jewish people, there's a pasuk from Malachim Bet, they're talking about against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'm not sure exactly what they're actually speaking, but they're saying things about Hashem that are clearly did not take place. So, if they're saying about Hashem kaviyachol certain things, and the rule is that any time there's a rumor, it's got to have some kind of truth. So if they speak about Hashem, whatever they're speaking negatively about Hashem should also be considered be some truth to it. And let's see what the pasuk is.
We know that there's no truth in regards to that.
And there's no truth in regards to that. Let's see, where is it?
Very good Zion Tech.
Right, correct. Okay. So I'll read you the English. So it was when the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim from under the hand of Pharaoh king of Mitzrayim, and had feared other gods, idols, and walked in the statues of the nations, idols, who the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel which they practiced. And the children of Israel fabricated matters that were not right against the Lord their God, which was what? They built high places, Bamot, and Asherim, and they burnt incense in the Bamot, as did the heathen, as did the Goyim, and so forth, and all the Dvarim Ra'im Lachis Hashem. So, and they made Gilulim, and which Hashem said not to do. So they obviously...
The word there, fabricated, is more like manufactured, creative, rather than said something.
Well, but chapu is like, I think it's like chipu is like a cover. They covered over. They made things over that were different than what they were.
Mm-hmm.
So no, what they basically are doing there is they're saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to worship idols, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't exist, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a real God, or however it is. Okay. So and therefore we're going to worship the idols that are really that we're going to follow. As a result, okay, so this and they turn against HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make God angry. In this case, we know clearly HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not command them to worship idols. Right? We know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is emes and tzedek and justice and right and everything else. So how could you see that they could say things about Hashem that weren't true if every time you say something, every time people make a statement, there's got to be some amount of truth to it? Could one say HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a little bit of not emes? Of course not. Could one say HaKadosh Baruch Hu would tolerate a little bit of idol worship? Of course not. So the Gemara says, but the funny kind of question, because it's not about human beings.
Right.
We're talking about God. But the Gemara, or Rabbi Yaakov is taking Rabbi Reuven bar Shubili's statement very literally. If everything you say about a person, there's got to be some kind of truth, even about God. And the response is, yeah, but you have to understand the circumstances behind it. So Hassam says, look in the pasuk there. It says Lahachis Udav. The pasuk actually says why are they doing this. It says. They worshipped on the bamot like the goyim who were exiled from them. They did bad things. Hashem to make God angry. So when you want to make God angry, when you want to change the news, when you want to make lies, you can lie. In other words, the answer to the Gemara is there always can be malicious people who are doing things in order to create machlokes and to ruin reputations. That's not included in these kind of discussions. It means the kind of rumors are, and you'll see the Gemara is going to quantify it in a couple lines more. But the rumors are rumors that seem to start on their own, and no one knows where they came from. And as you see, they need to be persistent kind of rumors, and there's no reason why that rumor should have started. No one has an axe to grind. No one's out to get someone. So the case of Klal Yisrael was they wanted to make God angry. They wanted to rebel against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Now that's by the way that's not necessarily what the pasuk means. The way the Gemara's understanding is the Jewish people went out to make God angry. What really is the other way around. The Jewish people worshipped the idols that made God angry. Right? If you want to look at the simple pshat, is people did not go to worship idols to make God angry. They worshipped idols because they thought that was what was right, and God became angry because they were misled, they were misguided, they should have known better. But the Gemara is once again going literal into the pasuk that they would do that. Therefore, if a person wants to make someone angry, wants to get at your goat, so you can say anything you want and it can be complete sheker. So that's the first. So the attack from Yaakov is knocked back. And we're back at the statement of Rav Reuven bar Shubili's who says that a person, if there's a rumor about a person's nechsha b'davar, there's got to be some truth, or he may have thought to do it, he may have done part of it, thought to do it, or at least enjoyed when others did it. Toshma, next question. So there's the part about Moshe Rabbeinu. Toshma. Now it doesn't quote from Kisisa because in Kisisa it doesn't say what the people were saying when Moshe was going by. In Kisisa simply says they watched V'hibitu acharei Moshe ad bo'ol. It doesn't say that, but in Tehillim Kuvav, it says very clearly in a different place that they were what the people thought about Moshe Rabbeinu. It's fascinating because we don't read Tehillim. It says Vayikanu l'Moshe b'machaneh li'aron kadosh Hashem. The people were jealous against Moshe in the camp. For Aaron or about Aaron or against Aaron, the holy man of God. Now, Vaikanu, to be jealous, is used in various different ways. Pinchas is called a kanoi, sometimes a positive kind of statement, but usually a kanoi or kineit ishto is the term, the buzzword that's used for soto. Right? He was jealous about his wife. He wasn't jealous, he was suspecting his wife, suspicious that made him jealous that she was with another man. She was secluded and had relations with another man. So the Gemara says this term Vaikanu Moshe in Tehillim Kuvav, which doesn't really say what they were jealous about. Right? It's very oblique. Is really Malamed Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak Amar Malamed Shekol Echad Kinei Li'ishto Moshe. Everybody suspected His wife was with Moshe. The Moshe was the what do you call it? The marriage destroyer, right?
And since we know that isn't true, therefore there can't be any truth to of Reuven's.
Correct. By the way, it's not as far-fetched a kind of concept when you think about it, right? Moshe is not intimate with his wife. So and that opens itself all kinds of rumors and innuendos, and who is Moshe? What's he doing? Right? Who is he intimate with if he's not intimate with his wife?
Is this before or after Miriam talks about him?
Well, this is the Tillim doesn't really tell us where it comes up.
Right.
And actually, there's if you go through Tehillim, it's fascinating because there are a number of places where it talks about the Exodus, and unfortunately, we don't read them. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Doesn't say anything about it. People being jealous.
All right. Where is it? What pasuk is it? Okay, here it is. So it actually tells us where it is. So Tillim Kovav. Anybody recognize that? Yeah. Well, it didn't come from Hanukkah. It came from Tillim Kovav. Okay. Then David says, "Remember all that you've done. Who can declare God's praises, etc., etc." And we, on the other hand, Chatanu im Avosenu Havinu Vershanu. We sinned. We're not good because Avosenu Mitzrayim Lo Eskilu Niflasecha. Our ancestors in Egypt, they didn't recognize your greatness. It says Lo Zachur Drov Chasadecha. They didn't remember all the good you did to them. Vayamro al Yam B'Yamsuf. They rebelled against you at the Yamsuf. Right? They don't want to go in. And they said to Moshe, "Why'd you take us out here?" What happened? You saved them. To show your strength. And you rebuked the Yamsuf. And it split. And you took them through the depths in the midbar. This is Kriyat Yamsuf. He saved them from an enemy. He saved them from another enemy. This is like a paraphrase from Yashir, right? No one was saved and by Aminu Bidvarav Yashir Tilaso. It's also paraphrased by Yashir. So they got saved from Hashem. And what happened right away? That even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved them, they forgot. They immediately, quickly forgot what he did. They didn't turn to his Eitzah, which was to follow Hashem. They had lusting in the midbar. And they tested God in Yishimon. And they gave them their request, and he sent them. Razon is like food. This is, I think, is this Slav?
Slav, maybe.
Okay. Kivrot Tava. And then says Vaikanu Moshe b'machaneh, and they were how they translate? They envied Moshe in the camp. Aaron Kadosh Hashem, against Aaron, the Lord's Holy One. This is the story of Korach. And what happened? Tiftach Haaretz Vativla Dasan. So the earth opened up and it swallowed Dasan. Vatachas Aladat Aviram, and it swallowed the congregation of Aviram. And then Vativar Eish Badasam, the fire swept out. Lehavat Lahid Rishayim, and so forth. Then it goes back and it goes a little bit out of order. Yasu Egel B'Chorev. They made an Egel in Chorev, and they worshipped the Egel. And they Vaymaruat Kvodam B'Tavnit Shorachel Esav. They rebelled against God with these picture or shape of a shore, an ox that eats grass, and they forgot God again and again and again and again until it could, and so forth and so on. This is the whole parak. But the point of it is they are jealous of Moshe, or envied Moshe's way they translate it, which is right before the story of Korach. So what's the end? And we know, by the way, the story of Korach. The story of Korach is a rejection of really Moshe and Aaron.
Right, I was going to say that.
Right. It's not the rejection of Hashem, and that's why Moshe says to Hashem, "You have to do something, because it's me or nobody now." Yeah. But the bottom line is the Gemara feels that this term Vaikanu, which
maybe comes from Sota, like you said. Where else? Well, right. If anything they're talking, because if you remember in that same thing, that's in that.
What were they envious of Moshe for?
We also said Aaron should put up his staff, and the other people should put up their staffs to exactly give honor to Yaron. Mm-hmm. So it's all They were jealous of both, like you said. Moshe had nothing to do with women, frankly. But,
so
they're using the word vayikanu, right?
So they're using the term vayikanu, which has nothing to do with women, but the Gemara wants to make that analogy. So they're saying, once again, here we go. So there's some kind of envy. The Gemara tries to tie this in according to Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak. Moshe. Once again, we know that Moshe clearly was celibate, and he surely was not unfaithful. Right? He was surely not doing all these terrible things. So how could you say that if there was rumors, there must have been smoke, there must have been something, right? And Moshe is the holiest man. So the Gemara says, Hasam, the Gemara says, wait, Hasam Mishum Sinahu David. It says very clearly they were angry against Moshe. They hated Moshe. So when you have hatred, this is like lahachas. Lahachas make God angry. And if you hate someone, you'll spread rumors around them. So if you want to destroy Moshe Rabbeinu's reputation, you can make up whatever you want to make up. Okay, so in other words, once again, the idea is that Rav Reuven Bar Asrobili's statement is that when there's smoke, there's fire, or there's at least a smolder. Right? It's true, but if there are mitigating circumstances, lahachis or sone, then obviously that trumps everything, and you can't rely upon it. Okay, so attack number 2 is knocked down. Toshma, attack number 3. Amar Rabbi Yossi, he chalki shechosh Moshe b'davar v'ein bo. So next is Rabbi Yossi says, may my lot be with those who people are choshed about, and there's no truth. In other words, of all the people I'd want to be associated with, I want to be associated with people who they think are Baalei Aveira, and they never were.
People think that those people are.
Right. I'm not sure why he would want to say that. Okay. But the point of it being, he's saying the best level I would like to be on is to be part of the group that is being there's rumors and innuendos about they're doing Averos.
There's no basis.
And there's nothing. But you see that there can be those who are choshid b'davar, and there's nothing. And a similar statement, V'yom Rav Papa lididich chashton v'lo havebi. And Rav Papa himself says there was a rumor around about me, and there was no truth to it. Right? I completely, categorically deny this. Okay? And the Gemara is trying to assent. Yeah. Yes. That there's really that really he was right. So at any rate, you see that it's not always clear if there are rumors, there has to be some truth. So the Gemara says, you're right. So the Gemara says, Lo kasha, ha b'kol the pasuk, ha b'kol la pasuk. If there's a rumor and it stops, so it's not true. But if there's kol la pasuk, there's a persistent kind of rumor that surfaces again and again and again, there's some truth to it. Right? People are saying that a person's lacheria, a person is unfaithful, the person is doing this. You know what? Okay.
Constant rumor.
Now, how long is a constant rumor? So it's not so long as you think it is. So Gemara says, okay, the kadla pasagat kama. How long is it considered a rumor that's consistent or constant that keeps going? So Amar Abaye, Amrli Aim. So Abaye says, my mother. Abaye was not raised by his mother. His mother died when he was young. He was raised by a nursemaid who he calls his mother Aim. Okay, so there are a number of places where this comes up. You don't normally find that people refer to their mother, right? But he had this traumatic childhood, and apparently the person who raised him was a very wise person who he learned from. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what his father was.
And he quotes her.
And he quotes her. But I'm saying, the funny thing about it, he quotes her as his mother, right? He doesn't say Mrs. Jones.
Do we say that someone who...
Yeah, if you raise a child, you gave birth to them.
Yeah.
Correct, but I'm saying, but you don't normally find that Amoraim are quoting my mother said. Okay, sometimes. But this uniqueness of Abaye is quoting when he says Aim, he means his nursemaid who raised him. Okay. So what did she tell me? Okay. Dumi Damasa Yomo Palga. The quieting down in a town is after a day and a half. There's a rumor that dies down after a day and a half. There's nothing to it. It's old news. It came and it's gone. Something else has pushed it off of the front page of the tabloids. Right? It's nothing anymore. And but if it's beyond a day and a half, that means there could be something there. But there's some more parameters. V'hani milud lo pasuk beini lebeini beini. That's provided it didn't die down in the middle. It's got to be a day and a half of constant buzzing. Okay, if you're here for half a day, it dies down, comes back a half a day later, it means nothing. Of a pasuk beini beini less than ba. Okay, but if it stops in the middle, it's nothing. But it's fascinating. A day and a half. It's a very short period of time. V'chi pasuk beini beini. When and then now we said if it stops in the middle, it's really it destroys the consistency of the rumor. That is only said ed lo pasuk machmas yira. It's only if it didn't stop because people were afraid, had a fear. Maybe it was a rumor about a strong person, a politically connected person, and people stopped it because he threatened people. But if it stopped because they were afraid of what they could happen by spreading these rumors, because he would be vengeful of them, means nothing. So even if it started and stopped and then started again, the rumor still has validity, right? Below Omar el lohada novat. Okay. And the only time we say it is when it I guess it starts again. Let's say below Ahmad lo hadanavat. Oh, well, in other words, when do we say that the breaks the consistency, the break in the middle, when it didn't return, so to speak, with a vengeance? In other words, it was as strong the second time around. So it kind of develops and builds on itself. So if you have a rumor, it stops, and the rumor comes back, and this time is even stronger, that could be valid. But if it returns stronger, then it's no reason to consider the break to be a break. That's what we're saying. V'lo amran el lesle oivim, and also this the only time we say that the rumor has validity if he doesn't have any enemies. Of lesle oivim, but if he does have enemies, and there's a logical reason why this kind of rumor would have been started to discredit him. So we say oivim hu dafkula kali. It was people who wanted to malign him, who wanted to create a calumny against him, his enemies who kind of put the rumor out. Okay, so there are like so many parameters and caveats. It means it's got to be that you have no one who hates you, right? No one who would set you up for this, and it's got to be the rumor maintains itself for a while, and doesn't stop in the middle, or if it stops in the middle, it comes back even stronger. But so those are the kinds of things. But otherwise, if there is a rumor, who knows? There could be something. It could be something very minor. It could be minor. But it doesn't. But it means at least there's something that who knows what the rumor is really trying to really hint at. Okay.
From a legalistic point of view, this is very airy-fairy. You know, I'm a little surprised that the Gemara, based on any legal precedent, would use this kind of thing.
So the Gemara doesn't use it to really. This is not illegal. You're not pressing charges. All the Gemara is saying is you got to be careful that there might be some validity to it somewhere, right? If you hear a person's a criminal, maybe he took home the paper clips in the office. Okay, right? Or maybe he was in the office when someone took home the paper clips, and he says, "Take another box." Right? So it doesn't have to be that he is as bad as he's the axe murderer as you think he is, but it means that he's not squeaky clean. He's clean, but he's not squeaky clean. Okay. That's what's being said. In other words, anytime something comes up, it's got to be based upon something. The guy that takes some of the paper clips, people say, "Oh, he's taking them the paper clips." Who knows what else he's doing, right? Who knows where he's what a graft he's stealing from the company. Right?
And the truth is, in our own society, you see something in the newspaper that hasn't been proved, much less in a court. You might question whether there might be some validity, right? Certainly, if it goes on for a while, people start looking deeper. Whatever, right? So. It happens every day.
Okay. I mean, here, Israeli politics, Israel Beitenu. I don't know.
Which could cost them a lot.
It cost them a lot. I don't know. They just
They do have enemies for sure.
They have millions of dollars in their accounts. These guys.
Yeah, plenty of enemies.
$3 million. This is the assistant, whatever it is, minister has.
In Russia, it's a whole different thing.
Well, anyways.
In Russia, you'll live a different one.
But she says, it's elections. I'm being framed because it's elections. So you know what? The answer was, we don't know how bad it is, but there's obviously something there. Anyways, once again, it doesn't mean that she'll be proven guilty in a court of law either.
It doesn't mean it's true.
Right? She may walk. But I'm saying, but being proven guilty and having rumors that swirl around you, right, are not necessarily the same. So I know, Jack, you're concerned about Lashon Hara. Right?
Sure.
So the answer is yeah. So sometimes Lashon Hara you hear and you kind of don't accept, but you kind of say, well, maybe there's something there.
No, but what about Lo Telech Rachel? I mean, when you decide it's Rachilus, right? I mean, it's really a good question. That's a serious question.
And then, right, the real question is how these rumors keep going. If everybody's concerned about Lashon Hara, who's spreading the rumors?
Right, it's tolerated. It's tolerated.
You listen to Lashon Hara.
Lashon Hara is tolerated here.
Yeah.
Or it's telling people, you got to be careful. Maybe you shouldn't go into a deal with this guy.
Tricky business. It's a tricky, very delicate.
Maybe count your change when you're going into the grocery with this fellow. Who knows, right?
You might. If you do this
check the expiry date. Check the expiry date on the merchandise.
You might say something, right? You have some suspicion about somebody who's going to make a deal with you.
All right.
Be delicate about how you're wording.
Good. Now we come to the next mission. Okay, next mission, short piece for the next short mission, short Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara mission says once again it's about writing. Ein kosvin shtar chov. Ein kosvin shtar chov b'moed. That you can't write a document of a loan. You can't write a loan on Chol Moed because you can write it later on.
That's serious. Maybe don't lend you money then.
However, v'meino mamino, right? But if the person who's going to lend you is not going to lend you the money until you write the loan, right? Until he's got a written document, and he's not even willing to wait till next week, right? O she'ein lo mash yochal, or he doesn't have what to eat. Now, question: who doesn't have what to eat here? Ein lo ma yochal. Okay, ein lo ma yochal, or someone doesn't have anything to eat. Now, who's missing the food here?
Assume it's the borrower.
No. So Rashi says, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's about lending this.
What did you say?
The person who needs it.
The person needs it. So, in other words, he needs the money so badly that he can't wait till afterwards to eat. So that could be a possibility. Rashi says, and this is probably the pshat, it means the sofer who is being engaged to write the document. In those days, there were no do-it-yourself forms. Writing was a specialty. We've talked about this. Writing was a very real specialty, and most people, while they were literate or could read and speak, and were literate in text, especially orally, were not adept at being able to write. Believe it or not, it's a funny kind of system.
You had to do it on parchment. With the feather, with such a link.
But if Rashi is correct, that means the person who asked the sofer to write isn't chayev. It's the sofer that's chayev.
We would be, except that he needs.
Sofer is chayev for what? The sofer needs the sofer. You know there's a sofer out there who makes a living, and he's starving because it's Chol Moed and nobody's coming to him. And he's got nothing for Yontif.
And there is a loaning man.
And I, the lender, and you, the borrower, are willing to wait till next week. But by next week, this guy's going to have real nothing. So he's going to starve to death. So who wins? So the answer is, I'll lend you the money, you'll borrow the money. We don't need to write it, but the sofer is going to be out of a job. Sofer will be dead in the street by next week.
So, but it appears as if the onus, the isser is on the sofer, rather than people who told him to write it.
So,
let's say a sofer isn't starving. To follow up what Jack is saying, and the language sounds like it says "Hare ze yichtov."
So, in all the cases where you need to write, the sofer is permitted to write.
But you don't need to
for example, we have, let's say the basin says you need to write how much mizonos you're going to give to we had last week, your wife's daughter, your stepdaughter. So it's not in the ksuva, so you're going to write out how much it is. And because we're afraid the basin won't be there, the witnesses won't be there, so the basin says, write it now today on Chol Moed. When the basin says it, the sofer can write.
Sure.
Right. We also pointed out, we pointed out last week that writing is a little different from a lot of the other malachas on Chol Moed. Not talking about today, even in the days of the Mishnah. It was not considered laborious.
Right?
It's umanut. It's a very skilled labor. It was more skilled then than it is today, but it's also not that laborious. It's not like mixing cement. It's not like building a bridge. Right? It's not. It's no. It's a very minor labor. I mean, look, if you think about it, Shabbos. Why is Shabbos? Why was Shabbos is wrong? Why is it wrong to write on Shabbos?
Creating something.
I would say
What are you creating? You're creating a letter. So who says you're creating a letter? What's the matter to creating a letter?
no creation.
So the answer is that the Gemara identifies everything, all the Lamed Tes Malachos were needed for the Beis Hamikdash, and when they had the different boards, I think, had to be numbered as they put them and they stacked them away. So they had to write one number next to the next number, Aleph next to Bet, the next to Gimel, next to Dalet. So you had to put one next to the other. It had to be at least two letters, and the two letters have to be together, or at least being read together, Aleph and Bet. So that otherwise, if you think about it, not everything that looks like it's so difficult is difficult, right? I know, today you can't buy cake in Sobeys unless they put the lettering on the chocolate slab on Friday. I'm told you go in on Friday, they won't sell you the cake with
Seriously?
Seriously, they've been trained.
Oh,
that if you go in on Friday, from Friday they don't give you the
Why
choice.
won't they do it on Friday?
Because
You'll break the letters, you'll mush the letters. I don't know. Okay.
People don't fuss like that.
Yeah.
But
Right, I don't know. Right, I'm saying if you go on a Friday, you have to get the chocolate slab. I think you have to really argue with them not to get the chocolate slab. If you go on a Thursday, then you have to ask for the chocolate slab. Okay, but it as it may, writing is a very writing.
You take it off.
Right, you take off it's a piece of chocolate, it's a slab of chocolate.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
letters or something.
I'm with you.
I don't know if it applies to Chila.
I don't know if it applies to Achille either. Years ago it didn't, but today it does.
Today it does,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, at any rate.
You know what?
So the bottom line is, we're saying this half in jest because you realize that ksiva, writing itself, is such a very light kind of thing, and if the writing doesn't last, right? People who write on cake don't expect the writing to last. You're expecting it's going to be eaten, right? It's like
right, sure.
Anyways, off topic, back on topic. And so therefore, the person who's starving in this case is the chiddush of this case is even though there's no reason really to write on Chol Moed.
Right.
However, you and I, the lender and borrower, know that there's a sofer who needs the parnasa because everybody else there's less writing going on. He's really starving and he hasn't socked away money, food for Yantiv. So therefore, that's what means ein lo ma yochel. Okay, next thing. Ein kosim sfarim tefillin mezuzos b'moed. You don't write. Sfarim refers to a Sefer Torah. Tefillin and mezuzos are what they are. You can't write on Chol Moed because the assumption is that it's first of all meleches uman, and second of all the assumption is you probably didn't need them. Okay, you get away without them, and we see them in machlokus in a moment. V'ein magim osachas afilu b'sefer. Now here it looks like Sefer Ezra.
That's what Wayne says.
Right. So, like, what is so special Sefer Ezra?
What's Magi? You can't.
Magia, you can't correct.
Correct.
You cannot correct. Magia is to correct. There's a letter that rubbed out, a letter is broken, a letter is erased. Magia, lahagia is a no hagia.
To reach is normal.
Magia is when ayin is with to arrive.
Okay.
Magia with a hey is to emen, to correct. Okay. So you can't do that. And now even the Sefer of Ezra. Now, what is Sefer Ezra? So you read it and you say, well, what's Sefer Ezra so important? So that's what you think, that even a book like Sefer Ezra, which has less worth. But obviously it has less worth. Yeah, but
Why would you be correcting in any other?
So I explain to you. Let me explain to you first what he said, and I'll tell you why it's wrong. Because if it means Sefer Ezra, what do you mean even Sefer Ezra? You can't be Magia. Sefer Ezra, of all the Sfarim that you would think has the least significance, would be Sefer Ezra. It's a Ksuvim, right? It's not even a Navi. It's written, a lot of what we have is the Aramaic, correct? Not even probably the original Hebrew. Of course, according to our Masorah, it probably was written in Aramaic, but okay. But bottom line is, so what does that mean? So there are a couple of interpretations which really all mean the same. One is that it means a Sefer Torah from the time of Ezra. So they had the standard Sefer Torah, the standard model that they matched up all Sefer Torah against. The Kodak, right? The actual, what do you call it? The benchmark that they worked. Right. This was it. And another variation on this, by the way, which means the same thing, is not Ezra but Azara. That in the Azara they had the Torah. May not have been the Torah from Ezra, may have been a reproduction. Means what do you call, authoritative text. The official text. If you ever had a question, you could compare it to this one. We no longer have that. We no longer have that. We already know today that there are certain variations in some letters between different traditions. Hey and an aleph and vavs and yuds are gone completely. Not gone completely. We have no veracity to prove it. Right? Where with that, if it has a vav, you shline with a yud, you shline without a yud, Yaakov with a vav, without a vav, right? Malech chaser, right? So we know, for example, in the Gemara Maseches Kedushin tells us how many, where the middle of the Sefer Torah is. I think if you look today, it still says it, right? Dorosh Dorash. But if you count up the letters and count them, it's not exactly, not with the letters. With the words it is. The words haven't changed. Okay? So whether you read it as Ezra or whether you read it as Azara, it means the same thing. It is, now, that Sefer Torah, that's the Chiddush. You could have thought that Sefer Torah is so important to maintain the standard, right? In other words, that's the one, if something happens to that, you got to correct it immediately, because who knows, tomorrow someone will come and the aleph will be rubbed out, or the hay will look like a daled, and everybody's going to match against that Sefer Torah. So that's the Chiddush, even though you could have thought that is the key of keys, and it could be a real loss, right? Or what we call real tzorach rabim. Comes along the Mishnah saying, nope, according to the first opinion in our Mishnah, Ein Magin Osachas Afil B'Sefer Huazara, Sefer Ezra, however you read it. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kosev Adam Tefillin or Mezuzas Liatzmo. So Rabbi Yehuda says, nah, person, you can write Tefillin, you can write them for yourself if you need them.
There has to be some sort of source for I know Jews from South Africa, for example, or Hungarian.
Yeah.
They put on tefillin on Chol
Correct,
Moed.
that's correct. So this is
talking about writing.
right. So this is one of the sources that is quoted that you see.
No, you can't.
You
You need to fix it.
You mean fix it? Yeah.
Tefillin gets run over by a truck. You have to fix it.
I got you.
Right on the
and
spot.
you put them on a Cholamoy.
Right, got to be some sort of source. If you just had the
If it's
first
breaks
part,
or something, I don't
if
know.
you just had the first part, you'd know you're not supposed to put on tefillin on Chol Moed. Period. Right.
So
Right.
So the machlokas about wearing tefillin on Chol Moed, which may be grounded in this, but it goes all the way to the Middle Ages in the Rishonim, right? So if you say that you have to wear tefillin on Chol Moed, you say, oh, you see, I have to wear tefillin on Chol Moed.
You have to check them a whole
This says you can't write them. It's a.
So why do I? In other words,
write them if you're
the
gonna put them
assumption
on.
is if I can write them, I must have a purpose for them.
Right.
I need to put a mezuzah up on a door,
right.
so I got to put it up. I need to wear tefillin.
Yeah.
Right. So those who the shita that says it's not true that you don't put tefillin on Chol Moed, say why do you have to write on Chol Moed? Because you need it the day after Yontif.
Okay.
Okay, you want to wake up and you're right. Today I don't need this. I can have the luxury of writing them. But the day after Yontif, 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, I got to put my tefillin on. I got to go to work. So when am I going to write them? So it's not so ironclad that this means that you have to wear tefillin. Okay? But whatever it is, that's.
Because there's a lot of it.
Right.
Why are we not worried in this case about Shein Ma Yachol?
Shein Ma Yochol.
Isn't it the same?
So
I had tefillin I want.
correct.
Hungry, right?
So it's very curious because it does not seem to talk about a sofa writing. It seems to be he's writing it himself.
Sure.
Right? I don't know. Maybe it's easier to write on parchment. I don't know. Maybe.
Come to be an educated guy, right?
I don't know.
He knows how to read a script.
It's also shtarei chov. It's like saying, when you have a legal document, you want to write a letter, you can write a letter. When you have a legal document, I want my lawyer to read it over carefully to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because if I missed one of the whereas this or whereas that, right, the meaning changes. So it's possible that the sofer was not only the person who wrote it; he knew how to write certain things. And the first part of the Mishnah was shtar chov. It's a document of indebtedness. So it had a whole lot of significance, a lot of money riding on this. About writing tefillin, you know what? You probably, if you had enough time, you could write your own tefillin. If you had enough time and first you got to learn how to write it. You have to learn how to get the parchment and so forth, and the ink and so on. Okay. It's a skill.
But you see, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the script was different than we have today.
Okay.
Not different, but...
So first of all, there's not just one script today. There are various scripts today.
When I say for Torah...
One Sefer Torah, tefillin, mezuzahs.
Right, but you see a Sefer Torah, you can read it. When you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, they're hard to read.
So because they're
letters
written...
are like not clear.
So a lot of them are written in the old Ksav Ivri too, which is like...
Ksav Ivri.
I'm not going to talk
Okay.
Sure, it's not.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you look at it, I saw Dead Sea Scrolls, I gotta look, and I figured it out, but it's not like, when the letters aren't, it's not like, I can't read the word, I can't even read the letter. Like, I don't even know the letter.
Slanted.
It's slanted, they're right on, there's sharp edges.
I don't remember. I remember when they had the Yeshayahu scroll out in the Israeli Museum, and I went to see it with my brother, and we went looking, and he said, well, how do you know it's really true? See, you know some of the Haftorahs.
No, but the one of the in the museum, the real one is underground.
Correct, they actually had it out. They actually took it out. So we went to see it. It just looks the same as the facsimile, I'm saying, but still, it's the real McCoy. So, or at least they had part of it out, didn't have the whole thing out. But we could read it, we didn't have a problem. Anyway, yes, we could. I remember we could.
But I read the film, but it's not so easy. Sometimes.
Okay, Ksav changes. Okay, I can't say Ksav changes, but you're right. The Ksav is different than the Ksav that we have today. Yep. Okay. People are always working with the Ksav. Koren is coming out with a new Ksav Rashi.
Who is?
Koren Publishers.
The Koren, yeah.
I saw a copy of it. It's coming out like a chumash, like for kids, and it's like it's like a dumbed down Ksav Rashi. They made Ksav Rashi easier, and I was very upset with them because when they showed it to me, because it says the kids will never learn Ksav Rashi.
In Israel, I don't know if this is true, but in Israel, the non-Muslim kids never learn Rashi, but not too much, so they can't never read a comic because the Rashi script is cursive. It's supposed to be a cursive.
Right.
But here,
anyway,
here they have a Ktav Rashi. This chumash for kids on the Kattan.
That's fine. No, but the Koren has come out with a new edition, and the Rashi Ksav is changed a little bit. They think they changed it nicer. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Mer Kosiv Adam Tfilim is this Latzmo, so you can write it for yourself. What this means is you can't sell them. In other words, if you need tefillin or mezuzahs, then you can actually make it for yourself, but you can't profit by selling them over to someone else. Okay? And the last part is v'tove al yirecho tcheles l'tzitziso. So you need to have tcheles tzitzis, so you can, I don't know the term, spin the thread. You can spin the thread on your yorech, on your thigh, to make the thread for the tzitzis. Here they call it tcheles. It's called spinning.
You spin it on your thigh.
So I don't know. I'm not an expert on spinning, but I don't know how to spin it with a spinning wheel either. Except what I've seen is it's got a lot of different strands, and the spinning spins them together, so that the wool. Remember, this is wool. Wool is like your hair. So the long strands of wool get woven together, and you end up with a woolen thread that is multi-stranded, and one strand leads to the other. Now, however it happens on a spinning wheel is simply a mechanism. It's a contraption that allows us to proceed much smoothly and more quickly because it kind of moves it around with belts and so forth.
Right.
So, therefore, it is possible, before they invented the spinning wheel, it's surely possible to put thread together. I don't know how you do it, right? I don't know exactly how you do it.
Google it, I'm sure.
Probably. I don't know if Mr. Steinsaltz even has a picture, but what the last piece is, let's do the last word. So it says al yirecho. I'm sorry, al yirecho tcheles. So which means you're doing it with a shinoi. Right, and the Gemara is actually going to talk about another version. So one is this birecho on your thigh. I don't know what it means if you have the threads coming in different places.
I think he does. Here, he has a dark head. Time, absolutely.
Okay,
well,
the tava.
He's showing a woman without a spinning wheel, holding a sort of a staff here, etc. I assume this is probably what you're talking about.
Maybe.
Hey, you see, there's no spinning wheel there.
Okay, I can't see that far. So.
Sorry about that. Yeah, she's clearly hasn't got a spinning wheel.
She has something in her hand.
Yeah, a staff. I think
a
staff.
Pelech is a...
What's a pelech? Some kind of a staff.
Pelech is some spinning contraption.
Yeah, but it's not a wheel. Some other kind.
So it's some other contraption. I don't know exactly what it is. So pelech is the term for whatever contraption they used to spin. If they didn't have a spinning wheel, they had something that held it together. the most primitive way of doing it was simply al yirecho,
Goes around.
and then I don't know how it
Goes
works.
around. She's holding it in one hand,
Yeah.
and it looks like it's going around, and it comes up the top, or the other way around. Around the around her bum, around her knees.
Around her back leg.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are three things that the Gemara is going to talk about. One is this where she's sewing it on her thigh, where spinning the thread on the thigh. The most efficient mechanical way they had was this pelech, which is what Steinsalz is trying to show you. And then there was something that they used in Evan. It's not clear how this rock worked, except it held the the strands taut. So at least you can then begin to work with them. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. So whatever it is, the pelech was the meleches uman, is the skilled labor of that industry in those days. The yad is clearly meleches hejot, and the evan is like in the middle. Okay. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can do all this provided that you're doing it through a shinoi in a very unusual kind of way. You can't do it with a pelech, right? And by the way, the halacha is going. The halacha paskins that actually you can even be not it's only al yirecho, but you can do it the normal way that you can spin thread on a weekday. You can spin on Chol Moed as well. However, you're not supposed to do it for business, but if you need it, then as a tzorach mode you can use it.
Talking for yourself, you're all together.
Correct. It's talking for yourself. So I'm saying, but as long as it's for yourself.
But you see that. But again, the thing that the Mishnah does seem to say, tchelet. Really, maybe they had tchelet still.
They did have tchelet.
Even
they clearly did have tchelet. Of course they had
They
tchelet.
clearly had tchelet.
Of course they had tchelet.
I don't know when they lost. Well, they lost it obviously at some
Of course they
point.
had tchelet in the time of the Mishnah. Mishnah definitely had tchelet.
Right, but what about by the time of the?
So the time of the Gemara, there's still references to tchelet. The question is when we begin to lose this. I don't know. Probably when we move off the coast of the Mediterranean.
I have a book on the subject. I haven't finished reading it.
Right, tchelet.
The book said Romans banned it because only the Roman emperors could use the
Well, that's true. Tchelet was a royalty thing.
It was a royal thing, and then because of that, people would could get killed if you were wearing tchelet.
Oh, but I don't know about a
So then it got
thread.
forgotten. This is what it says in the book.
Okay.
That's just a thread, though. Maybe.
Yeah.
No, clearly it was for royalty.
I have a rare shade of blue
Absolutely.
from Stern.
I don't know
From the Murex.
From the Murex.
Yeah, but
The book, yeah.
what was very interesting is that they found tchelet on Masada,
Right.
which means that the rebels said, I don't care what you said, we're going to hold fast to our
Was
mitzvahs.
it real tchelet or it wasn't indigo?
Real
Not
tchelet.
indigo. No, indigo is not.
No.
Real tchelet.
Sorry.
And you see a picture of it, and they did a chemical analysis of what they found in Masada,
Same thing.
and it's from the Murex.
I'll give you a...
So at any rate, so you can get it today. Okay, so this actually brings us up to the end of the Mishnah. Just maybe leave the Gemara for next time.
Sure.
Okay. Next week we're on. It says one short piece of Gemara on this Mishnah, which really kind of discusses basically the sewing for yourself, right? And it actually talks about like, can you say, can I give you my tefillin so that I then have to make tefillin for myself? Can I?
So I'll have a chat.
In other words, I can't make tefillin to sell to you, but can I sell you my tefillin and then I don't have tefillin so I can make for myself?
So if you're saying
Or whoever's make the tefillin person owns the tefillin, mezuzah, whatever it is. In other words, the same kind of thing. Can I do business? It's called marim. Can I kind of fake people out? So that'll be a short piece of Gemara, and then actually after that we get right into Levi and
Another